Hi, this is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy, and be sure to check us out on Facebook and look for our new newsletter coming out in September. And I'm here today with Carmine Vittoria, who's just published a book, Hidden in Plain Sight. So welcome, Carmine. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know this book is a very interesting book because it talks about the internment camps during World War II, which I don't think too many people actually know were in southern Italy.
You're right. Not many. That's the reason why I wrote the book in the first place. In fact, I called my friend, his name is Virgilio Provenzano. He was born in Calabria, and he lived about 3-4 miles from in a town near Ferramonte di Tarsia. That's an internment camp, in fact, the only one in Calabria. The rest of them were internment towns, but this one was an internment camp. I said, Virgilio, you lived about 2-3 miles from the place over there. You must have heard some rumors or something like that about, strangers coming in and out and so forth and so on. I said, no comment. I never heard anything, and that's the truth. And I said, wait a minute. You put me on. Well, I'm cleaning up the language a little bit. I use different words for them. I said, okay, let me ask you another question. I said, well, you must have been aware at that time, or your family may have been aware of it. But there's such a thing as Drangheta. And in Naples, you have the Camorra. In Sicily, you have the Mafia. But in Basilicata, Calabria, and so on, that region, you have Drangheta. You must have heard about that. Is that common? I didn't hear that until 1975, 1980. I said, you put me on. And I use different words, but I'm just cleaning up the language. So I did my research, and I spent about a year or two. The man is right. He's absolutely right. And so I said, it's time I tell the story the way it really is. Now, the way I did this book, instead of writing just an historical thing from one fact to another, leading to another, and so on like that, I don't want to do that. What I did, I picked up a sentimental story, a love story, and show how history affected people's lives and families, intermixed history with local people and so on. And that's what I did in this book. Okay.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. So, what is the historical background behind the story, and how did it impact the people of southern Italy?
Well, the story goes back to a famous book called Christ Stopped at Eboli, written by Carlo Levy. He was a Jewish doctor from the city of Turin. And he was a political dissident. He was a socialist, okay? And he opposed the fascist government. Well, what Mussolini did was, okay, instead of putting these people in jails, he would gather them and put them into towns in southern Italy. Basilicata, for example, in the case of Carlo Levy, he put him in this town in Basilicata called Aliano, which was about 20 miles from Eboli. But the point is that Carlo Levy was transported from Turin to Eboli by railroad. But then from Eboli to Aliano, it was a little bit rough. Bus, this or that, and so forth. But the main point is this, that modern civilization wasn't there in that little town. The town was so remote that modern civilization never reached there. So, for example, the local people would say, well, Christ stopped at Eboli. He never came here. I.e., translation means we don't have modern civilization over here. Hence, he adopted the saying in that town, Christ stopped at Eboli. Very famous book. They made a movie and so on. So this was a way by Mussolini to hide political dissidents from the world scene or visual. And not only hide these political dissidents from the world, but from Italy itself. Okay? Because they were in a remote town, they could go about it. They had to check in every day, signing in to the registered city hall, like that. So hence the title, Hidden in Plain Sight. People could walk about, but and they were political dissidents. However, Mussolini learned a lesson. This is a good way to hide political dissidents and so on in World War II. Now, and I asked myself, why in the hell does he want to do that? I mean, okay, political dissidents, I understand. But why gypsies? Why Jewish people? Why this? Why that? I don't get it. But the point was this. He wanted to convey a message to Hitler and say, see, me too. I got internment camps too, just like you. That's son of a so-and-so. I'm not going to say that. And so he was piggybacking with the hope of getting the crumbs. Let the men do the war, not take the crumbs. I don't care. Follow me? That was his philosophy.
Now, is it true? Because I had heard, and I don't know if it's true or not. I heard a long time ago, even before I started doing this stuff, that Mussolini he didn't deport the Jews out of Italy. Is that true?
That's true. He did not deport. Here's what happened. As the Allied army advanced north from Sicily, okay, so it was a stalemate south of Italy. Now, you got to remember this. Mussolini was put to jail by the King of Italy on July 25th, 1943. And from July 25th, 1943 to September, I believe, 12, Mussolini was in jail, put in jail, okay, moved around and all that. But nobody was in charge. And the northern internment camps or town, not camps, but town, remember this, that was different. That was under German control. They controlled northern Italy. But in southern Italy, it was controlled by nobody, at least the American army and the Allied and so on. They took part of that country. But now here you have a situation where the man that invented these internment towns in southern Italy, he was in jail. So the guard asked themselves, wait a minute, the boss is away. What are we going to do? They took off. I mean, let's face it, people were starving, and including the guard. Nobody paid them. I mean, the king of Italy and I forget the other guy, and like that, they were in Puglia. I forget the name of the town. And they couldn't print the money. They didn't have any control over the situation, nothing. So the guys said, I haven't got paid. My family's starving. So they left internment towns. So the internees, they were on their own. What are we going to do now? I mean, go north where they came from? No, but the war is still on in the north. They're not going to go there. So some stayed put. That was the safest spot to be. None got killed. And besides, the guards were in the same position as they were. So that's what happened. I described that in my book.
Yeah, that's something. I have to ask my cousins because my cousins lived in Puglia through the war. When my grandparents came, they left my oldest uncle there. So all my cousins were born in Italy from my uncle Giovanni. And my cousin recounted seeing, the port of Bari being bombed and running into the fields to avoid getting, bombed, although their town never got bombed, but they could see it in the distance. And like you said, food was scarce. I asked her, what did you eat? And she said, beans. That's what they ate. They eat beans. That's what she said. And then when the Americans came, She said she was, I think, 12 or 13. They would go into Bari and sell things on the black market.
Yes, and take Ferramonti. By the way, the only, whenever whenever you talk about internment camps, you have this picture with the fence and the dogs and all that. That was not the way at all. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, the only one in southern Italy was, as I said, the Ferramonte di Tarsia. There was no fence, no nothing like that, just buildings like that. And there were something like 3,500 to 4,000 people, but families, units. They had their own rules like that. They had their own political system, their own government. In fact, there were 25 marriages over there. And there were 5, 6 children born there. I can't remember by memory. And over there, and so it was almost like a normal thing. And the guards, there was nobody that died at the hands of the guard, nothing like that. The only death that happened was there was a stray bombardment from a plane, Allied plane, and they dropped a bomb and somebody died from it. That was it. And the other thing was malaria. You got to understand that part of Italy, there was a lot of malaria around there, and some got sick, and a few of them got killed. Died from malaria.
So the Germans at that time, so when the Germans were in control of the South, they just were hands off. They didn't care.
No, because let's face it, the Germans were in Sicily. They were chased out of there, right? Now, while Montgomery and Penn were arguing among each other, the Germans and the Italians took off. Okay, they actually rented a ferry boat. Boom. And they went across the Strait of Messina. Now, think about this. Here you have Italian troops and German troops leaving over there. But you see, the Germans needed people to work in their factories, okay? So what do? They load up Italian soldiers onto trucks.
Yeah, I heard that.
My uncle was one of them, was put on a truck, okay? So, and they're going along, they asked themselves, what am I doing in the truck? Am I a prisoner or what? And my uncle always told me that. He said, then what happened was, it was in July, it was hot as hell, and the truck stopped at one of these beautiful beaches along Calabria, okay? And they took all their clothes off, these German soldiers, and they ran to the beach. So these Italian soldiers, about 20 or 25 of them, they look at each other, what the hell are we doing here? Let's get out of here. And so now, some went north, like my uncle did. He walked 120 miles from there all the way to my town in Nebelman. Others went east, and a lot of them worked in farms in Basilicata around there, and some went south. That was a smart thing, because they were going north, so they went south. Mm-hmm. But my uncle did the wrong thing, going north, because that's where the Germans were going. Okay? Now, history books claim that when the Germans occupied Rome, September 10, that they took Italian soldiers as prisoners. That is not true, according to Carmine Vittoria, because he took prisoners right after they crossed the Strait of Messina, August 17. Okay? There's a difference. Small difference, but it is a difference. They took prisoners right there and then. They loaded them in trucks and all that. Now, when the Germans got to Naples, in Neapolitans, you have to understand who they are. They have this philosophy of credo. They call it Ciarangiano. That means we adapt to survive. They rather bullshit. They rather talk nonsense, because life is too short. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they tried to dialogue with the Germans, say this or that, like that. But the Germans took it as the occupied, they took it as a weakness, on their part. They misunderstood the character of the locals. But in the meantime, what the Germans were doing, loading up young men, 18 and older, onto trucks and shipping north on their factories, okay? When the Napoleons realized that these guys are not bullshitting around, they're serious. They're taking our young men. I said, without our young men, we're done. We have nothing to look forward to. So they revolted. The Skrunici, these local children. And they fought the Germans. They chased her out. They had 20 tanks. 15 of them were destroyed during the revolt. And they left town in a hurry.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I never heard that story.
So when when Montgomery came to Naples, the town was liberated. And he was introduced, Field Marshal Montgomery was introduced, the girl that led the revolt, one of the girls, and many of them, young woman. And he planted 2 kisses in her cheek. That was nice. Gratitude. Beautiful. Thank you, like that. But Montgomery, Mark Clark comes into town. He comes like an emperor, like I've conquered Naples. What the hell you do? You didn't do shit. Sorry, my English. So anyway, the only thing he's worried about, where's the next lunch? So he went to this restaurant called Mama Teresa, which was very expensive that time. But Mama Teresa's restaurant didn't have any food. So what are we going to feed them? Here's a general, a 3-star general, lieutenant general. So guess what happened? The cook, the chef, he went to the aquarium, where the fish are kept. And he grabbed one of these bass over there and the fillet and all that. And he fed to the general. And Joe said, yeah, that's the most beautiful meal I ever had. But anyway, that's a story.
So in this story, Mussolini moved everybody south to get them out of the way. Did they all then migrate back after the war? Did a lot of them stay in these towns, or did they all go home?
The internees?
Yeah.
Well, here's what happened. Obviously, they were not about to go north. For them, some came from Austria, some came through the Brenner Pass, they went like that. Other came from Trieste, crossed over there. Other came from Nice, France, over there on that side. So they came down. So for them to go north would be silly. First of all, the Germans occupied the rest of Italy in the north over there. And also there was war, and there's still a big warfare in Russia and Germany, France, all over like that. They're not about that. Some what they did, they went through Puglia, I forget, Brindisi, because that was the port closest to on the other side. And they went to Israel. Nowadays, in those days, like that. And some immigrated to Portugal, went to America or England, whatever like that. So some found their way. There was no restriction for them to go any place they want. Okay, but some stayed put. They stayed put, and then as soon as the war was over, they headed north. They went north. For example, one family I described in my book, they went back to Vienna. But you see, whatever the bombardment didn't destroy, the Russians destroyed with their tanks and all like that. Their neighborhood was totally wiped out. So lucky for them, there was what they call a white bus group from Sweden or Scandinavian. They were looking for people like that. And they not deported, but they took them to Denmark, Sweden, places like that, the Scandinavian. And that's what happened to some of them, not all of them. Some, of course, went to their homes they found and so forth and so on, like that. So they dispersed all over. Okay? Not many of them, but they dispersed. However, all internment towns in the north from September 8, 1940, Trianon, like that. All of those people there, Jewish people, they were deported to Auschwitz, other places like that, for, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I interviewed somebody, boy, it's probably over a year now. And he's from the North, Jewish. And he told me he didn't know he was Jewish until he was 30 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's a young man. I mean, he's only like 36 or 37 now.
We'll be right back.
Experience Italy like never before, traveling with a scheduled group or create your own bespoke tour with friends with philitaly.com. Pack your bags and follow Phil. That's www.philitaly.co.
Now, I'll give you an example. What you're talking about is that in the town of Potenza, which is in Basilicata, okay? Now, you had a bunch of visitors, mostly Jewish, and there was an Italian woman. They went to this town, and they met the mayor. The mayor, all plumped up and everything. And they said, well, there was an internment town here. Your town was an internment town. So that's not true. I employed 40 historians, and they said that there's no internment towns here. That is not true. So one of the Jewish guy, the old guy, said, well, excuse me, there's a birth certificate of my daughter over here, issued by your city hall at that time. And then another one said, here's a death certificate over here, and if you go to this cemetery, you'll find that my uncle, this or that, died, was buried over there. And then, of course, the mayor turned different shades of white, right? And he was embarrassed. I mean, and the problem is this. A lot of you see, think about this. From July 25 to September 8, 1943, there was a lot of confusion. Why? Because the architect of the internment towns was in jail, right? And the minister that carried this out was also in jail, okay? Now, and whatever, there was a vacuum. So now people that were in charge, for example, fascist mayors during that time, they took off. They took off. You follow me? They said, well, this is too dangerous here. I'm out of here. And so, and first thing he did, or she did, was take all the register, people signed in and all that, destroy them. Okay? In other words, go to a town where they don't know him, and then come back to the same town and say, look, I didn't do anything. There's no record. Huh? You see that?
Yeah.
And so the problem is, a lot of the towns that had that registry, people don't know it should be an internment camp because there's no record, unless you have a birth certificate or death certificate or something like that. And so anyway, I'm sorry to bore you.
No, not at all. No, this is fascinating. I mean, I love history, so this is really great stuff.
Anyway,
And also, I mean, and the Pope was kind of ambivalent to all of this, right? He just
don't get me
hands
started.
off. No, I have to ask because it's out there,
Well, you asked, and you're going to get it.
No, that's why I asked.
Okay. Now, there was a Pope before Pope the 12th, Pope 11. It was he was going to issue what they call encyclical. You know what an encyclical is? The church philosophy or whatever like that. And he employed a monk to write the position of the church relative to the Jewish situation. Okay? He has some beautiful saying, unbelievable saying. And he was going to announce it to the whole world. And I forget the date. I think it was in February 1941 or 42. I forget the date. 39 to 40. Anyway, around that time. And so he was supposed to give it a February 11. Now, on February 10, he died. Okay. Let's leave it at that. Okay. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right. You can formulate your own opinion, and I can formulate my own. I don't have to express my opinion. Okay. So only about 3 weeks later, there's a new pope put in. Okay. Pope Pius XII. Okay. And there are many things said about him. And I think Robert Kotz, who was a famous writer about that period of time, who lived in, he was from the Bronx, New York, but he lived an adult life in Florence, Italy. And he wrote books about that period of time. And he wrote about Pope Pius XII as the Pope of Silence. And that's probably the best description of him. So I'll leave it at that. Is that okay?
No, that's fine. I mean, I've read and watched things about his
Yeah, but anyway, let me tell you what I did in my sentimental love story. In one internment time called Tito, I picked that Tito because for a number of reasons, but main thing was I want to introduce the local people, interaction among them and all that. And one of them was a barber, and his name was Ottavio. But he was also known in town as Bambolone. And so I created that character. And you may ask me why that character, because I got tired of always referred to barbers as Figaro, because, like that. So, how about Bambolone? I like Bambolone. So Bambolone in Italian means a boy doll, okay? And where did I get that from? Well, if you saw the movie Robert the Greek, where Anthony Quinn, dates this woman, old elder woman called Bambolina. I said, wow, that's beautiful. Why not Bambolone? And then I show, his real name is not even Ottavio. Like in that area over there, people invent names only because it's got respect or something like to that effect, okay? But he was a goofball. That's basically what it is. But also kind-hearted, beautiful heart, okay? And so then I have the story that the two Ukrainian soldiers escaped from the German convoy going north like that and going toward Tito. And guess what? The Bambolone sees them, so they were by the water fountain because they were thirsty in July and all that. And so then he couldn't speak German like that. And then the Ukrainian could speak German. So the point was, make the whole story short, was the Germans are on the way here. So we've got to do something about this. And then his mother-in-law was a champion, and she was a matriarch, and he warned her about that. But in the meantime, the people around him, they looked at Bambolone because the mayor left town because he was a fascist. So here was no mayor, nobody, no authority. So he took charge, just like in the movie, the Secret of San Vittoria, again Anthony Quinn. Okay, and I copied that, but that was a beautiful, beautiful way of putting it. Anyway, I love that. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's that's the whole point. Yeah, I mean, actually, fascinating stuff, and like I said, people don't understand what happened. That's why I like to do these things. So before we go, where can people find the book, and where can they find you?
Okay. The book is available on Amazon.kindle.com. In the old days, when I wrote the other two books, I printed myself, I shipped them myself and all that. But this time I got smarter. Publisher put the ebook, paperback, and the hardcover on Amazon.kindle.com, and this way they can get the books in a couple of days or 3 days rather than wait a week or 2 weeks like that. By the way, the ebook cost $8, paperback $25, and hardcover $30.
Well, Carmine, thanks again. I appreciate it. And looking forward to, I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to getting it and reading it.
Thank you very much.